Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about research questions and how to refine them. It's my understanding you've developed some research questions, but we want you to make them a little bit tighter. And so this is where we are in the research process. We're wondering, we're kind of just Googling around, we're getting some ideas, we're turning topics into research questions. The checkpoint, of course, is the research question. So we took this from a junior from the fall of 2019. How has the media's portrayal of women contributed to their expected role in today's society? So let's start with today's society. If you've got that in your research question, we want you to take it out and replace it with something more specific, because you can't do a 5-page paper about all of society. So let's, for now, replace it with the workplace. Okay, a little bit of a narrowing, not much, but a little bit. All right, so the question is, how would you know, right? So we kind of need some kind of a anchor to hang your research on that is somewhat measurable. So in this case, families' earnings is probably, it's a measurable thing that we can look to say it has contributed or it hasn't contributed. All right, that makes roll in sound very grammatically weird in this sentence, so we're just bracketing it for now because this isn't a grammar exercise. It's really just a question of refining a research question. So now we can look, a great way to refine a research question is to give you a time frame. So here is our time frame. This research question becomes a significantly different one with the pandemic, so we're going to stop at 2019. All right, 2000 to 2019, we've got a time frame. All right. Now we're going to focus on the other beat. I don't know why I call it beat, but it is kind of like the other part of the question. So we're going to look at media. And media is huge, right? Which media? News, advertising, movies, television, video games, billboards, whatever. So we're going to choose advertising industry, but we're going to narrow that even further because advertising can be displayed on all kinds of places, including social media, which isn't even in this list. So we're going to go with TV. All right, so how has television advertising's portrayal of women contributed to their expected roll in brackets in their families' earnings between 2000 and 2019? It is getting more specific, but oh, folks, we are not there yet. All right. Let's talk about which women. So a demographic is a really excellent way to further narrow a research question. So in this one, we're going to go with working women, which is still extremely large group, but we're going to settle for that for now because we're continuing. The more we refine parts of this research question, the more tighter the research question becomes. So working women. All right, so there are a couple of assumptions that this research question makes. One is that TV ads portray women differently than they did before 2000. And the other is that women's earnings make up a greater percentage of their household income than they did in 2000. And we really can't proceed with this research question until we know that there is research or evidence out there that these two assumptions actually hold up. So let's focus on the first one for now. And for this, we kind of have to fact check, which means that we have to dip into investigate. All right, so we're going to dip down into investigate and start doing a little homework. And I see this article, which actually isn't particularly helpful. A dead end cannot necessarily mean that it is actually a dead end, because all the way down at the bottom of this really kind of dead end article that really doesn't give me a whole lot of information I need, at least in terms of fact checking this one piece of information, is the mention of a 64-page report on how gender stereotypes can lead to unequal gender outcomes in public and private aspect of people's lives. So here is the report, and lo and behold, that report happens to be super helpful. All right, it's called A Guide to Progressive Gender Portrayals in Advertising. It's out of the World Federation of Advertisers, which is headquartered in the UK. But while the whole thing isn't necessarily exactly what we wanted, it does validate the idea, the assumption that there is a shift in the way women are portrayed in advertising from before 2000 to nowadays. All right, so we're going to go with, let's hang on to this resource, even though we're not sure it's really right up our alley, but it has at least validated my assumption, so we're going to hang on to that for now. Let's focus on the second assumption, which is that women are actually earning a greater percentage of their household income in 2000 to 2019 years. And a quick Google search leads me to a report from the Center for American Progress that actually demonstrates that, yes, this is, in fact, a valid assumption. All right, so already, just from this very cursory bit of research, I've actually looked at quite a few resources that I may or may not use in the long run. All right, so this is kind of a working bibliography, so to speak. I don't know which of these I'm going to hang on to, or certainly I've not written a journal entry on any one of these, but it's good to know that they're there because they do help to validate a couple of assumptions that are baked into this research question. All right, so now I'm going back to wonder because I really kind of have to finish up my research question. All right, so how has television advertising's portrayal of working women contributed to their expected role in, still grammatically weird, in their families' earning incomes between 2000 and 2019? So do we know for sure that it has? One of the challenges with the how question is that it assumes that something is real, whereas if we just take that and shift it to what extent, it means that it could be, and it could not be at all. And so long as we have a measurable decider as to whether we know it is happening or it is not happening, we can change that to what extent. What this does is it opens your mind to a wide range of options, whereas how kind of locks you into one way of thinking. So we like the to what extent question quite a bit here. All right, so now we're going to clean up the rest of the question, and ta-da! To what extent can the increased percentage of women's contributions to their household income between 2000 and 2019 be linked to a shift in the way working women are portrayed in television advertisements? Is it grammatically beautiful? Absolutely not. Does it matter? Absolutely not. This research question is a guide for you to use during the research process. It is literally a tool. It is not a literary exercise, and it's not going into your research paper. The goal here is to get you a narrow enough and tightly knit group of resources and evidence that will help you later on when you're developing a thesis statement. If they are very disparate and basically disassociated resources, you will not be able to come up with a cohesive original idea for a thesis statement. So it's very important that you approach this research task with a very narrow focus. If it's too focused, you'll know right away and you'll shift, and that's okay. If you check it against the rubric, is it unique, specific, complex, and scope aware? Here's the rubric, and we are going to post a discussion board where you can post your revised research question, and you can take a look at the rubric before you post, just to make sure. So that's a good starting point. The question, is it doable? And we've already confirmed that yes, it is, because we've consulted these resources and sort of fact-checked our assumptions to make sure that we can, yes, proceed with this. All right, then we go on to investigate, and we will see you the next school meeting and talk about that then. Thank you.